Hello, you're listening to Food Rebels and I'm your host, AJ Sharp. Welcome. This is the show that keeps you up to date with the best of food and drink stories from around the world of those people who are doing things a little differently. This week, we're celebrating 30 years of great taste, which I'm very proud to have been a judge at for the last 7 or 8 years. And I'm joined by Christabel Cairns, who is the Operations and Marketing Director at the Guild of Fine Food. She's the driving force behind Great Taste. Welcome back, Christabel.
Thanks, AJ.
It's been great. We've done a few shows recently. We've done World Cheese, and last week we did the trends for 2024. And this week we are focusing on those beautiful black and gold stickers. Can you tell us a little bit about the Great Taste scheme? It's been going for years, hasn't it?
Yeah, so this year is the 30th anniversary of Great Taste. It was started, the first one happened in 1994, but it all started a little bit before that. The supermarkets were going with a sort of pile it high, sell it cheap mentality, if you like, and the delicatessens of the UK were fast disappearing. So I think we'd got down between sort of 1988 to 1993 down to just 1,400 independent food shops left. So there was a real need for the smaller people to have a bit more of a voice and for some of those marketing slogans of sort of, you know, this tastes the best and that sort of thing to have a bit more gravitas behind them to actually have been tested out. And that's where it all started off from. It started off with just 246 products. I think they were actually bought initially, and a small collection of people, sort of well-respected food experts in the industry, got together and judged them. And it's really grown massively from then. It started off as a trade accreditation and now has a kind of consumer power behind it. People get very, very excited about the results.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
How did it start then, Christabel? So there's a few people in a room judging, you know, these 200 products. Then what happened?
Well, they've always been blind tasted, and that's always been a very important part of the process. And, you know, a lot of detail into how the products are tasted, making sure that you're getting a range of opinions. And then it sort of grew gradually, I think, really. By about 2000, I think there were 1,500 products in it. And I mentioned that the independent retail sector was under some pressure, but then in the 2000s, so sort of between 2000 and 2010, about 2,000 more retailers opened. So, you know, that's fantastic, sort of different farm shops, and people were starting to really think about where their food came from. You know, there were less good things for the food industry, sort of various health scares and outbreaks and things. So people wanted to know where it was made, who made it, was it local? And I think as well, waking up to, you know, what was being sold in supermarkets, and perhaps that some of the branding or the sort of taglines on things were perhaps less, you know, there wasn't some tasting behind it. There were maybe a little bit more marketing.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That the integrity of this awards accreditation, I suppose we could call it, has always been that you've come back to flavour. I know that sounds obvious. It's called the Great Taste Awards, but it's not about your packaging. It's not about where you're sold or how many places you're sold or anything like that. It is literally just taste.
Exactly. And you can be a marmalade maker who is a one person, you know, making your marmalades, or you can be the world's biggest marmalade manufacturer. And, you know, as a judge, you'll just have those two marmalades in front of you and you'll be judging entirely on taste. It was never set up as well to be a consumer marketing tool. So, you know, I love it when I sort of talk to people that I meet and they go, oh yeah, I know the Great Taste Awards, and you know, if there's two marmalades on a shelf, I pick the one with the Great Taste Award. That's an amazing sort of side effect, if you like, of why this was set up in the first place. It was set up really as a kind of very serious trade accreditation, which it still is. But consumers, because it's got that integrity, because it's got those layers of, you know, a layered judging process, people have got to agree. It's not just somebody saying, oh, that's a nice bottle. People take notice of it, and they can also, you know, you're talking about consumers going into a shop and spending their hard-earned money. You want them to come out with a product they'll be really, really pleased about.
Mm. And I know whenever I go into a shop, I always buy the 3-star. And I know everyone says that, but I really do.
They do. And, you know, one of my favourite things, we've got an office in London near Borough Market, and it's got a big sticker on the outside that says Great Taste. And occasionally you see somebody walk past and they actually get visibly excited. And you kind of hear this little noise outside and they go, oh my God, and they knock on the door and they go, is this where it happens? Is this where the judging happens? And I mean, that's amazing for something. It's, you know, it's 30 years old. It's very, you know, there's a process behind it. There's people sat there judging food seriously, to get somebody off the street knocking on the door, excited about, what's the next product is just brilliant.
That's incredible. So, Christabel, what was the first ever winner of Great Taste?
So there are lots of winners every year, and at the moment we've got kind of 1-star, 2-star and 3 stars. But in terms of an overall winner, we have something called the Supreme Champion. And that started in 1998, and it was a strawberry jam with champagne made by a company called Thursday Cottage, who actually still enter products today. So still going strong.
Fantastic. That's incredible. I'm really pleased that we can welcome onto the show 2 guest experts. I've got Margaret Carter and Jenny Whitham from the Patchwork Traditional Food Company, who established their company, founded it in 1982. And Margaret, you call yourself the Chief Excitement Officer. Is that correct?
It is, only because I don't like titles. And I'm a chronic dyslexic, but I'm passionate about being a perfectionist. And have fun doing it. So that's my role on the planet.
Fantastic. And Jenny, you guys were there, weren't you? Right at the beginning of when the Great Taste Awards first started.
We were. Yeah, back then, and there weren't so many categories as there were now. There weren't so many entrants as there were now. And as far as pâté was concerned, which was our line of produce, there was only one category, and it was for a pork liver pâté. And we were gutted when we saw it, because we didn't make any pork liver pâté, because all our pâté was basically chicken liver based. And so decision was, well, let's make a pork liver pâté. So I've always looked after all the MPD. So I think we came up with was it pork liver and apple?
Sounds good to me. Perhaps we should do it again.
I think it was pork and apple with cider or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the categories then? They were much more specific, were they?
They were much more specific. It was like, we wanted this and we wanted that. And it was like, we did this pork liver patty and we won a gold award. And we were very happy. And back then, it was a first, second and third. It wasn't, your product's good enough for a gold star and your product's good enough for or like it is now. It's, if your product's good, it gets 3 stars and you can have, 50, 60 different 3-star golds. But back then it was, in each category there was one winner and there was 1 second, 1 third. And I think they probably had a highly recommended as well. But so we got the gold. We were happy.
Very happy. We love winning. We're not very good losers.
No.
Oh,
Even though I'm not competitive, by the way.
No, she says she's not competitive till she loses.
And then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, we did almost leave one competition one year when we got only highly commended in something. It wasn't a Great Taste Award, it was something else. But
were you involved in the judging of the competition as well?
Later years, yeah, it wasn't till way down the line. We both went on a judging thing, didn't we?
Yes.
I think Wales hosted it one year, and pulled in lots of sort of Welsh judges. So we were pulled in for the judging at those those Welsh ones. But your son Marcus does more judging than we've ever done.
Artisan, yes.
The Artisan Food Club. He's been
judge for a while.
He's been, I think he's got the full quota of badges for every year. That
and Rufus, my other son, also.
Yeah, but Marcus has been the main one. Rufus has done judging as well. But
so it's a family event then. The passion for good quality artisanal produced food has run in the family.
Yeah,
and having opinions.
Yeah, and going back, I can remember sort of in latter years when the categories were getting broader, entering our vegetarian pâtés. We had about 3 or 4 vegetarian pâtés back then. We used to enter them, and we'd never get any awards for the vegetarian pâtés. And I can remember entering them year after year after year, and then suddenly one year we got golds for all of them, and it was like, oh, they put the vegetarian pâtés in front of a vegetarian, and it was.
But it's funny how trends work like that, isn't it? I remember, the years that salted caramel was the best tasting thing in the world, and we'd all gone mad for it. And then, several years later, you're like, oh, salted caramel. But it's, trends, they come and go, don't they? And you were probably ahead of your time with the vegetarian pâté.
I think there's a lot of things in our history that we've been ahead of our time.
One of the ones which I love the story of is the vegan one. We heard somewhere along the line that we'd won plenty of awards and new baby companies needed to be winning. So we went, okay, we'll leave it be for a while. So we left it for 2 or 3 years. And then Jenny readdressed a hummus that we had that wasn't selling brilliantly because it was expensive for hummus, which is like, 2p a kilo in the general run of things. So Jenny entered it by calling it a red pesto pate.
It had too many expensive ingredients. It had the sun-dried tomatoes and pine nuts and basil in it and stuff, and it was also too firm as a hummus. You tended to, if you tried to stick a chip into it, it would break. So I decided it was more a cut and spread thing, like a pate.
We won. First of all, 10,000 entries, isn't it? And we came down to 150, came down to 50, and we won.
Yeah, we got the Golden Fork for Wales that year. That was great.
Did you? Fantastic.
I think the judges were a bit horrified when they found out it was bloody Patchwork, though.
Consistent winner.
Yeah. And of course it's all blind judged. And it was back then, wasn't it? Has it always been completely blind judged?
It's always been that there was no brand attached to the product when it was put on the table.
But the problem for us was
I think our meat pates are very distinctive, and I think you got to the stage that people would recognise them.
But they didn't the hummus, which I think we weaved our way through.
The vegan pate.
And it was vegan 20 years ahead of its time.
Yes.
How have the awards impacted your business, do you think? I mean, you talking about MPD as a result of the awards. I mean, that's really going, above and beyond.
They've definitely got their place in the market now. I mean, I think going back to the early years, there was very much a sort of trade event, not really made much to the public sort of thing. And I think once it sort of got that public uptake, it's definitely got some gravitas to it now. And I think, I find myself when I'm shopping, I'll see a great taste product and I think, oh, I'll try that one, And I also, knowing something of the judging process, I'll know that sometimes when a thing's got a 2-star gold, it's like, that it probably had a 3-star at one point, but has been knocked back by the second judging table or something like that. So if I see something with a 2-star gold, I always buy that, knowing that it's actually probably better than it's really made out to be.
I think you're right, because we're quite particular about making sure that so many people agree it's a 3-star, that, if somebody's going to go and buy and spend their money on that in the shop, you want them to, we say, if you see a 3-star product, don't leave the shop without it. So I think the 2 stars sometimes they're, really ones to look out for because they've done really, really well.
Just hearing you say gold, that's not something I'm familiar with, because at the moment we think of 3 stars, 2 stars and 1 star. So has the actual kind of the accreditation itself, the medal as it were, has that changed over the years?
Yes, things very slightly. Things used to get a gold award and we talked about getting gold stars, and then it sort of just became stars over time. And people always say, how do you tell if something's a 1 star, a 2 star and a 3 star? And it is, you've done judging, it is quite difficult to sort of put it into words, but somehow in the judging room, things go around and people just know. They kind of go, yeah, this is a really strong 1-star product. Good example. 2-star, yeah, really happy. Definitely, would be really delighted to buy that. And 3-star is like Jenny said, this is the best haggis ever.
Yeah, and it's faultless. You just can't think of anything
exactly
you would recommend to improve it if it's 3 stars.
Yeah, one of the key things, though, about the whole taste judging process is that the phrase that is given as to what the manufacturer's description of the product, I think is absolutely key to whether that product gets what's rating that product gets, because that's what as a judge, you're sitting there tasting a product and you're told that this is rosemary jelly, this is a fragrant rosemary jelly with this, that and the other sort of thing. And if when that rosemary jelly arrives to you, you give it a sniff, there's no fragrance, well, you're already disappointed. So you're already thinking, well, that's not what they say it is, sort of thing. And I think that's when I often get asked to help with people putting forward their entries, and I'll say, whatever you put in that description is the key to that product winning an award, as much as the product itself being good. If what you say about it isn't, if it doesn't say what it says on the tin, then you're on a road to nowhere.
I agree in some ways. As a judge, I would rather somebody gave me less information in the descriptor. If they just said, this is, like you said, rosemary jelly, and then we can taste it and go, oh, it's really fragrant. Oh, there's essence of this and that and the other. And then you're excited by it. I coordinate for judging, and you do a load of training. And one of the trainings we did recently was about bias, and it was about looking at a product with your eyes, smelling it, tasting it, all the different things, and the expectation of what you thought it was going to be and what it actually was, and not negatively marking something because it didn't reach your expectation. And one of the best examples was a stingless bee honey. And so we all go, oh, honey, okay. And you go to taste it and you go, oh, ugh, absolutely revolting. But if somebody were to give it to you and say, this is a balsamic vinegar, and you were to taste it, it would be the most beautiful balsamic vinegar you'd ever tried, with essence of this and that, and absolutely stunning product. But because you were thinking honey, it almost didn't do well. It actually did end up doing really well in the end, but we were almost shouting around the room, don't think honey, taste it again.
I know which one you're meaning there. I've got some in my fridge.
It's so good, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful.
It's I always, going back to the sort of awards being gold, silver or bronze as they were back then. I always remember getting a gold for our smoked salmon pate. And I can remember at the show saying to lots of people, oh, we've got a goldfish pate. And I kept getting funny looks at, goldfish pate? No, it's a fish pate with a gold star.
That's brilliant. Did you find that it really improved sales for you guys, and was something, like that where you're saying this is a goldfish pate? Did it really help to sell it in that moment? Maybe not the goldfish example, but a gold chicken liver pate, for example. Was it really helping you guys to kind of reach your consumers in that way?
I think once it got that it got over that hurdle it had in the early days of not being recognised by the consumer. Once it got that consumer recognition, I think absolutely. I mean, these days it is very definitely, something to be looked out for. And I think that you can go to a buyer and give them a choice of 3 products and say, this one's our 1-star product and this is a 2-star product and this one hasn't got anything at all. Which one would you like to sell? They're going to gravitate to the Great Taste one straight away. It goes without saying, I mean, we have to say we've lost count of how many awards we have got now. I think we lost count somewhere around 80 or 90 or something like that.
Not just Great Taste awards, I'm assuming, just all kinds of awards.
No, I think most of those are Great Taste Awards, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
over 30 years, that's incredible.
Well, 40 years.
40 years.
Well, 40 years of you guys, but 40 years of us. But it's...
We are proud. We are proud, definitely proud. To be recognised for your sloggings, as it were, in your business is by people that you respect as well. Yes.
I mean, the great thing about the old awards is it was free to enter.
Yes, that's the only thing.
Yeah, there was the good old days.
I think it's now done on a scale, doesn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think we have a challenge to make it free at the moment. But yeah, the smaller people get charged less than the bigger people.
Smaller producers, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of scaled depending on your revenue. I think that's been worked out to make it a bit fairer, so that and actually they did a micro bursary thing this year.
We did, yeah. We had 50 products that entered for free as a, if they sort of needed a helping hand to get in, and that was to celebrate it being 30 years old, but something that we'll do every year from now on.
I called it a micro bursary, but I meant a bursary for micro producers, didn't I?
Exactly.
A micro producer being like under 100k with only
1 or 2 people working in it,
yeah.
And commercially available, but not yet entered into Great Taste.
Yeah, so really helping people right at that kind of grassroots stage.
Yeah, and I actually met somebody on Friday. I went to an event and they'd been one of the winners in it, and they'd then got a listing somewhere, and you can kind of see it in action, which was really nice. Yeah,
we really see that these days. It has a huge effect on the sales for that particular company, and it really affects, like you're saying, the retailer being more likely to take them on because they've got this accreditation. I mean, you guys found that, did you, over the years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, to be able to say, we've got X number of Great Taste Awards and, this product and this product and this product. I mean, I think in our core range of patés, I don't think there's one that hasn't had a Great Taste Award somewhere on the line over the years. And
I think the fact that it's a recognised award system, it's trusted. I mean, there's been no mess ups over the years with any of this. So, It's trusted. And
I think the thing I like about it is the fact it's taste. It's just done on its taste. It's not done on its branding. It's not done on its, whether you've got a great big marketing budget behind you or anything like that. It's just done on its taste, and that's what that's the essence of the whole thing of Great Taste, really.
And the fact it's 30 years, it's established.
Yeah.
We call that established, definitely.
And as far as possible, everyone's on a level playing field. There's some other schemes where there's maybe like a judging round on paper first, and as you say, those marketing spiels or the descriptions can then sort of knock out some really good people. But this is, just on taste, something decanted into a jar. That's what you get, and for better or worse, then a product's got to stand up on its own.
But for an accreditation like this to have grown from 246 products in 1994 to last year was what, 14,000?
14,205, I think.
That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, what a great... And you have to cap it there now, don't you?
We do. We cap it every year because, back to the judging process, we just don't think we can do the products justice if we have too many in. And that's, 14,000 might sound like a lot, but it's 2 venues for 4 months, pretty much every day judging. You sort of imagine it like a restaurant, basically, and the judges come in, we serve the food, 2 sessions of judging a day, and between March and June we're going through all the products.
And it's full on, isn't it? It's a busy old time judging through everything, and you've got to put hot food first, and I know we're going to talk a bit about that in next week's show, but it really is the most comprehensive scheme for measuring all these products against each other. And it's so interesting to hear how it's evolved over the years from this sort of tiny trade tasting where Bob Farron had gone and bought all the products himself through to now where people are entering it and entering from around the world. That's the other element.
Yeah, I think, and it's, there's an element to it where it's about products, but it's also about people. So people have met, other business connections, friends, people that have helped them with their business through turning up at the judging, through dropping their products off at our door, being at the show afterwards, selling their goldfish pate. And that's what I really like about it as well. It's a kind of big networking. Has got, sometimes a bad rep, but a big network between everybody. Which is nice.
The thing that it's withheld throughout the 30 years is integrity. With Bob, I always say companies are like their owners. Are you with me? It's like I'm passionate about the integrity within a company. And what's gone on in the world we're talking here, it's just been, I have never heard rubbish talked about it. It's got integrity.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I've seen that with how professional the awards are organised behind the scenes. If there's any chance that anyone could have known anything from anywhere, you're not going to be judging that day. You're never going to be allowed. If you do happen to be a producer, and there are very few who also judge, you would never be put on the same day as your product coming out. There's such attention to detail on that front that is absolutely incredible.
But on the whole thing, throughout the 30 years, I've never heard anything untoward about it, which is good. When the world is full of yuck out there, but you're yuckless.
Well, that's really lovely to hear.
What advice would you have then to companies who are looking, you guys are the kind of gold standard here of Great Taste Award winners. What advice would you have to smaller businesses who are just starting out?
You're passionate about your product and it's the best that you can do. You've given it your best, the best ingredients, best everything, the process all the way through. Enter it, because don't be shy about entering it. You'll be judged. But if you dig deep, put your products in there. If you artisan producers are passionate about their products. Yes.
They wouldn't
be doing
it otherwise. And it's a case of dig deep, put your hand in your pocket, put the entrance in, and going back to that descriptor line is make sure you describe it accurately. And don't get all flowery and eloquent and unnecessary. Just say, as you say it like it is. It's a rosemary jelly, and then you can decide whether it tastes of rosemary or not, and whether it's the judges can come out with the eloquence and go, yeah, this is magic. Well, you get copies of that, don't you? As producers, you get a copy of all the feedback from all the judges.
Yes.
And what do you
yeah.
do with that feedback?
Oh, usually if we haven't won an award, scream and shout and say, God, they didn't know what they were talking about. That our product, they must have got them mixed up.
Which we'd never
If
do,
we've
of course.
if we've won, it's a totally different story. No, we're not as bad as that. We're just having fun here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, there was another award that Margaret and I entered, a food award, but not a great taste award, and we got a feedback form about that product, and we did actually act on that feedback and entered it again and got the top award the following year. So advice to the people that get that feedback: if you want to improve your product, listen to what's been said and think about changing it. But then, having said that, it depends how well a product's selling. If the product's selling well enough anyway,
don't change a thing. Not even a grain of salt.
I mean, we've had that with Patchwork products in the past, where we've a classic one, our chicken liver Cointreau orange pate. We used to squeeze the oranges on a little domestic electric orange squeezer for the juice, and we sort of would burn one out after about 6 months, because it's not, it's domestic bit of kit, not designed for commercial. And then it got to the stage that we were burning one out every month. So we thought, we're going to have to upgrade this bit of kit. So we bought ourselves this very fancy
orange juicer,
yeah. a commercial orange juicer. And we were, it's brilliant, boom, boom, boom. And, the juice was there in no time. And then we noticed that the sales were dropping off for the Cointreau orange. And we had a little chat with one of our key customers. And he said, well, it's funny. He said, it's funny you should say that. He said, I've noticed that too. I've got some customers who regularly have come in for that Cointreau orange pate, and they've started buying a different one. And we realised at that point, the juice that this commercial juicer was making didn't have the sharpness about it that the little juicer was giving it. I think some of the pith from the orange was going into the juice. Therefore, it was making it sort of softer, if you like, and it didn't have the same orange hit that the little domestic juicer was giving it. So we threw away the commercial juicer and went back to a hand juicer. We now have this. We still, 40 years later, have this hand press that we juice the oranges with. You just don't know how sensitive your customers are to the details of your product.
Thank you very much for that. That's brilliant. Some great tips. Unbelievably, we're actually out of time now. Thank you to Jenny and to Margaret for sharing their story with us and giving us some great tips. Another big thank you to Christabel Cairns for joining us as our guest presenter today. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here.
You've been listening to Food Rebels, which is available on radio stations around the UK. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. Please remember to subscribe and rate us 5 stars, hopefully. It makes a huge difference to our podcast. We're also on Instagram at food_rebels. So give us a follow if you'd like to come on our show. You can always get in touch with us there. Thanks so much for joining us, and make sure you taste the rebellion.